Welcome to another Hayley-Roxanna crafts video. In this video I'm just going to quickly show you how I store the embroidery threads that I use when I'm cross stitching. So when I order the threads, they come in little bundles like this. These are sometimes called skeins, and they have these little paper wraps on. Sometimes there'll only be one in the middle, sometimes two, so it depends on what brand you're buying. So with this one it's a DMC, and then the number that refers to the colour of the thread is also on there, so that's 310. Now when you're working on projects, you can just take the thread from these bundles, keep them like this, absolutely fine if you want to do that. But as the bundle gets smaller, the paper wraps tend to start falling off, and then you can get confused as to which number it is. So what I prefer to do is I like to transfer them onto these little bobbins. These are card bobbins, just made of a bit of cardboard. Some people will make their own. I buy them ready-made. You can also get plastic versions of these, which I am thinking of trying, because I do find with the card ones you have to replace them every so often, as they can get a little bit tatty and your thread doesn't hold so well on them. But you literally just wrap your thread around the card bobbin. I will show you how I do that in a minute. And then with these, I just store them in thread boxes. And I've got a variety. I've got a couple of medium-sized ones. Okay, I'm not sure who this one's by. It might be a hemline. This one's by Anchor. And in these boxes, they've got little compartments that are just the right size for your bobbins to sit in with your threads on. This was my original box. It's not full at the moment because I have recently bought more boxes, because I did find they got full. But I mean, to start with, a medium-sized box is probably perfectly good to start collecting your threads in. Then I had to get the second medium box. I'll show you in this one. This one's a little bit fuller. Up until recently, they were fairly crammed. So I have actually just purchased a second large box. I'll show you in the large ones, but they're pretty much the same as the medium. They've just got more compartments. You don't want to have your threads too squashed into these boxes. It's nice to have a little bit of room so that you can see what you've got, and it's easy to get the threads out when you need them. I always store my threads in number order, so that it makes it easy to find what you want, and so you can see what you've got as well. When you want to start a new project and you want to know if you've got a particular thread, it's quick to just look what you've got. That's the large version. You can also get a small in these. The large box and this small one I know were hemline boxes. They're available from a variety of craft stores. I will pop a few links below to places where I've bought them from in the past. My smaller box I tend to use just to store the threads in for the particular project that I'm working on, just so I don't have to carry all my threads around with me. To start with, it's probably not a problem, but as your collection builds, you don't really want to have threads that you don't need with you. It's just extra stuff to carry about, and if you're somebody who goes to different places to do your cross stitch, you don't always cross stitch at home. It's not very convenient. Plus it makes it a bit quicker to find the threads you need if you haven't got all of them together when you're working on your project. I have also got this box. Now, this isn't actually a thread box. It was just a craft storage box that I picked up from Home Bargains. It was when I started on collecting the Disney cross stitch magazine from Hachette Partworks. Took out the subscription, and I was getting the threads and material to make some Disney samplers, and I needed something to store them in, and at the time I couldn't get hold of the boxes I normally use, and I spotted this and it does the job. It's not quite perfect size. If you see, these compartments are just a little bit too wide for the threads, for the card bobbins to fit in, but it works. You know, it's not that important. The most important thing is your threads are somewhere where they're not going to pick up dust or somebody can spill something on them. At least if somebody spills their cup of tea over this box, it's not going to damage your threads so easily. Whereas if your threads were all just loose, it could. You don't want to be washing tea stains out of your threads if you can help it. So as well as using like a smaller box when I'm working on a project, if I'm working on one with more threads, then I might use one of my medium-sized boxes instead and just transfer the threads that are in there to a different one. Now they're not quite so full. But you can also get these little ring clips. They just open up and you can pop your card bobbins on there. So if you're doing a project that's only got a few in, that might be more convenient to have to hand than having the boxes. It's sort of a personal preference thing. It's up to you how you want to store them. This is just how I do it. I can't say I use the clips very often. I tend to stick to keeping mine in boxes purely because I'm clumsy and I like to drink cups of tea when I'm stitching. So, and I don't want to end up with tea over everything too often if I can help it. I will now show you how we put these threads from the bundles onto the card bobbins. So, put in your thread onto your bobbin. First thing you need to do is you just need to take off these paper wraps. They usually just slip off like so. But before you get rid of these, you want to make sure that you write what number thread it is onto your card bobbin. I'll grab my pen. So it's 310. If you use threads of different makes, you might also want to write what make it is. As I pretty much only use DMC stranded cotton, I don't bother writing that onto my card bobbins, but I have got a few anchor stranded cottons. So with an anchor one, I would pop an A there. The threads I've got from my Disney cross stitch magazine, I've put a D on the card bobbins, so I know that they're the threads that belong with that collection. You just want to make sure you keep things as organised as possible because it does make life easier in the long run. So once you've popped your number onto your card bobbin, those can just be thrown into the bin as they're no longer needed. So then you just need to find the end of the thread like so, and if you look at these bobbins, these card bobbins, there are little slits in them. Just carefully make sure it's parted, and you just slip the thread into the slit like so, and that just holds it in place for when you start winding. Now you could wind by hand like so, but that's a little bit time consuming and you may not end up with it on the card bobbin in the neatest possible way. So one thing I've got is I've got this little bobbin winder. With these you can see they've got little slits on the end, and that's so it can fit onto your storage box. Okay, and if you see, there's the slits along here horizontal, and then you've got one here just perpendicular to it. And what you need to do is make sure you slot it over so it goes across compartments like so. So you've got that little T shape, and that just helps keep it secure. If you only pop it on without using that front slit on anything, it can move about easy as you're winding. So yeah, just make sure you've gone over a divider as well, and that just keeps it nice and secure. And it's got this little peg in it, which you just need to pop out. Sometimes they can be a bit hard. There we go. I always push them in hard because I'm scared of losing it. But then it makes it hard for me to get it out. But I've done it, so it's just that little peg. And then you've got the little hole in your card bobbin. Sometimes you just need to push the little bit of card out from there to give you the hole. And that slots in to there. And just line it up with that hole. And then you can pop the peg back in, push it in so it's in nice and secure and that's not coming out. And now it's just a case of using the handle to wind, try and get that little bit of the end of the thread just tucked in, so as you wind it goes down flat, and then you can just start winding up. Okay, now I tend to hold the thread, feed it through like my thumb and first finger, just to help to keep it quite tight. You don't want to wind the thread around the bobbin too tight, but you don't want it loose either, so that it could fall off, and that just helps to keep the tension. It also helps to make sure that you haven't found any knots as you're winding it on. You'll feel the knot trying to come through your finger, so you can sort it before you wind it onto the card bobbin, because occasionally you can get knots in the threads. And then you can just get it sorted, so that when you're working on a project, you're not sat there trying to deal with a knotted thread. You've already sorted it all in advance. And then as you're winding, if you just allow that thread to go up and down the card bobbin, you want to try and wind it on as evenly as possible. So I've got a little knot to come. There you go, easily undone. Yeah, you want to make sure you get your thread as even as possible on your card bobbin. You don't want it all scrunched up one end or the other, because then it doesn't sit very nice in the box either when you're storing it. It's not very good for your thread. You want to treat your threads as nicely as possible, so that they sit as nice as possible. And so just give this a wind up. Just letting that thread go up and down that card bobbin. To be fair, the knots usually come as you get towards the end. I think I might be lucky with this one and not actually have many knots, other than that little one I had. There you go, nearly there. Nearly there. Keep winding, and then as you get to the end, try not to let it pop out of your fingers, and then you're just going to pop the end into one of the little slits. Sometimes it will go in the same one as the one you started with, other times it might be the other. Really doesn't matter, it's literally just to secure it onto your card bobbin. There we go, all done. And then these little bobbin winders, you just pull it off, you can pop it into the box, close it, and your thread is now all ready to use. So now the thread is on the bobbin, I can now pop this into my box in the right place for the number. I do tend to only put one skein on each of the card bobbins, as I find if you put more than one skein it just makes it too thick. And I also only have one bobbin per colour, so I'll only have the one with 310 on at a time. But there are times where you do have extra skeins of a thread, of a particular thread. If you know you're going to be using a lot of one colour in a certain project, you might have spares, or it might be that you're almost out on the card bobbin, so you've bought another one ready. And I always keep all my spare threads just in this little bag. This organza bag actually came when I ordered some threads from Lovecrafts. Quite often when you order your threads online, they'll come in these lovely little organza bags, and they are handy just for storing your threads in. But obviously it can be hard to see what you've got, so I always keep a list on my phone as well. So it's just a quick reference, so I know if I'm running out on the card bobbin, I can look to see whether I've got some more in this bag or whether I need to place an order, depending on how quick I need it as well. But yeah, so that's just how I store them, to keep them neat. And that's how I store all my embroidery threads, on card bobbins in boxes. I will pop links below to the places where I've bought the items that I've used today. And if you've got any questions, stick them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. And that's it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.